Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a video where I flood a desert in many different ways. And this is actually a map that is populated because I was working on it off camera. And this is the Sedona, Arizona map that I like to use quite a lot. And we're gonna flood it. The first way I try to flood the city, or the entire map, is by surrounding the map with a key and then filling in everything in between. This isn't a very successful flooding, but parts of it are definitely fun to watch. Now I just destroyed the dam, and I'm going to add a few more water sources and raise them to my desired height. And this is where a lot of destruction and cool clips will come. The water rolls down the hills and through the riverbed. It concentrates in little areas that are down low, like this area, which I actually built a town in. So, of course, if more water was to go into this area, it would be a much wider and deeper river. And so I'm going to try to get this area pretty flooded. So I'm going to change that waterfall to a slope for the water. And then I'm going to put a key right here to stop water flow to the other part of the river. And direct the water towards the town itself. And I'm even going to put a flood wall around it to see how much of it can stay there for a while. And there's that place up on the left that we just left. I'm not sure if that will be able to survive without flooding or not. A couple more water sources, and there's some pretty cool waves coming down, and it's about to hit several bridges. And you can see the river is dry over there, but it is actually from this angle flowing to the right. Because of the key that I blocked the river with, the sewage is actually piling up and moving towards the town instead of away from it. And the sewage and this big, huge wave are going to collide at some point. And it just went over the first highway, and you can see all the water physics and the cars jumping up on top of the water. And here comes the water to another bridge. Probably the worst type of traffic jam you would want to be in. And here's the cool part. All that water is going to come down into this little basin area after it sweeps over that little tiny remains of the island. I pause it for a second here to get a good angle, and it is about to wreck this town and go clean over the key, and this is going to turn into a pretty nice lake. For a future video, I would like to add rivers to this map where there would naturally it looks like there would naturally be rivers. And if you'd like to see that video, please let me know. And I just looked at that boat museum, which was pretty funny because the museum stayed down, but the boat went up and it eventually despawned. So as you can see, that entire town is covered with water, and that spot on the top is not. And here's where it starts colliding with the sewage. And this town experiences a wave of waste. In fact, it's their own waste that's piling on top of them, along with the huge amount of water released by the dam and the water sources. You can see here that the water is coming from the sides of that mountain in the middle of the town that was covered in sewage. And right here I am covering up the holes in the key, which I don't know if they're just terrain ripping or they would actually affect it, but I quickly cover them up as the water comes down. In fact, I pause it here. time I've had the video in triple speed in the game, and I also sped up this by 300%. And as we move back to the civilized areas, we can see that industry over there is not yet covered with water. And the dam water level is certainly very low. And after a very long time of almost filling up, I set the sea level to the desired point, and that's what it ended up look like. It looked like a very cool map to actually build on because of all the nice islands and mountaintops. It actually looks like it would be fun to build on. All the roads down there glistening under that huge amount of water. And the dam isn't that much lower. So now here we are in attempt 2. Attempt 2, I use a much different strategy to do it. I close off different parts of the map, fill them with water, and then which lead to other parts and more parts until I'm able to make all those parts into one part, which you'll see here shortly. And it is pretty successful, but it does take a long time. So in addition to allowing the water to pass into this square area that I created, I also put a few water sources in it to speed up the process and ensure that the water only goes to a certain level. So now I am starting to make the first sections where I will allow water to pass through. And I only let it pass through in small areas because I want it to have a very, well, not very, but pretty close between the amount of water going from the dam and from the water sources and into that new area so that the water level stays close to the same. And I just opened up a new area, and I will continue doing this for a while until I cover a substantial area or part of the map. Adding a few water sources at the beginning of the river, because at this point the river water sources are not keeping up with the amount of water that I'm displacing and moving to other parts. So I thought those water sources would help the flow of the river. You can see, just like last time, the river basin is drying up as I blocked the water source. And now I am breaking off and making a bunch more rows of larger blocks for the water to go to. Now the water is going back from the dam into these new areas, and again I add water sources to the correct height. Making many of these areas for the water, it begins to look like a sort of farm from the top. And that was an autosave right there. But it does look like a sort of farm, maybe like a rice farm or something like that, because of the way it's all lined up. The highway there is just above the mark, and I realized that this first wall is way too thick compared to the other ones, and I could use that area for more water. Also, that highway in some parts will eventually be underwater. And now I'm moving off to the left here to complete the second row of boxes. I'm tying in the two sides, and this is a point where I will need to destroy some highways, which I didn't really want to do, but I have to, because they're in the way of blocking the water. And off to your right here, you'll see that highway will be underwater in many spots. But however, some spots will not be underwater because they are high enough, but that bridge is just barely underwater. Now I just released all that water into those new areas, and they're filling up, but it looks like the water level is slowly going down, so I add a lot more water sources in a few minutes. And I also create new areas that water is already actually going into because of the sudden change in terrain. And now I'm removing all the dividers in between those boxes to make it one level plane of water. And this will take quite a lot of adjusting to, and as you'll see, it looks like a huge mountain range of water, and it's going to take a while to settle. I'm sure if you jumped into that pool of water, you would probably be thrust up into the air and pulled down under so quickly that it would probably kill anything very fast. Finally, the water has settled to a reasonable point in which I can continue making more of those areas. And eventually it filled up the entire map, and that's just another method that you can use to flood an entire map, or that I use to flood a desert. So this is the last attempt. My brother actually did this, and this is just systematically going through and flooding each town and each area, and then eventually it rises to a point of a desired sea level, and then we just change the sea level to make it flat instead of waiting for it to settle, which takes a very long time. And so you can enjoy some pretty cool shots of the city flooding, and I'll be back in a bit. This is the part of the city that was not flooded in the Great Lake over there that I created in the first attempt, but in this instance it is, because you can select exactly where you want the city to be flooded. One fast-moving river, even if it's in 3 times speed, it is moving very fast and it just wipes those cars off. And as you can see, the water is actually going the wrong way on the dam, which looked very funny. And now you can see when we destroy that dam, there's a huge spike of water, which is probably stronger than a geyser and looks pretty cool. This area of the map is probably pretty hard to flood because it's pretty flat and dry. And this is a city called Fort Sedona, and it's ran on the oil industrial over here. You can see here that low parts of the map that kind of look like rivers without water in them are being filled with water, and now they are actual rivers, but they don't have a water source where a normal river would have a water source. And also, our population is going down very quickly. It's only at 6,000 now, and the rate of death is way more than the rate of birth. Here is a underdeveloped part of town that will quickly be swept up, and all the cars will roll to their deaths, and the water is going to slowly approach this industrial area, and we'll have a little bit of a hard time flooding it because it is pretty high, but it doesn't. Those grids that you just saw underwater looked pretty cool glistening in the sun, and here's some solar power plants which are above the water. And as I said, it is pretty cool with all those lower areas becoming rivers. And I think I may actually make a video, I probably already said this, but I may actually make a video in where I just either raise the sea level or make a few water sources and change the map a lot only by making a few rivers. As you can see from those wide-angled views, it looks like the sea level has changed a lot in the map, and it definitely looks like a different map because most of the desert parts are now covered in water, and this would actually be a pretty cool map to build on. It's just a coast instead of a desert. Here comes the demise of yet another town. Two waves were just crashing together there. And now he looks to be flooding the upper plateau of the map, which is interesting. I didn't do that because it's so high, but we'll see how it goes. I'm surprised he hasn't destroyed the dam yet. He may do it later, but maybe he doesn't, and he just floods it this way. Now it looks like the water is spilling over into the dam, so if the water goes over the dam, he might actually destroy it like he did for the last one. Even more water sources all over the map and plateaus, and you can see right there a river formed, which is pretty cool. I don't know why, but I really think that is cool that all those rivers form in lower areas. Now you can't really see any towns, and the lake of the dam is not still at all. There are a couple spots that thought they survived, but unfortunately they didn't, and now the population is only at 35, which will probably come to 0 very soon. I think he's about to destroy the dam if he can get a hold of it. Yep, there he goes. That's probably going to cause crazy amounts of water. Look at that. That is like millions of geysers, thousands of geysers, shooting up into the air. The 14 people that are left are actually at a very far corner of the map, and those were 3 attempts to flood a desert in City Skylines. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll have more videos like this in the future, and if you want to see a City Skylines Let's Play series, please comment and let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.